this Israeli hostage basically coming out and saying what a lot of hostages have said, and a lot of people and a lot of families have said, like, Israel is the one that's
I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I thought it's going to be my last second of my life.
Hold on 1 second. Let me pull it up for you.
I screamed so loud so someone would hear me. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I thought it's going to be my last second of my life. I screamed so loud so someone would hear me. And I heard Yossi screaming too. But after a few seconds, I stopped hearing from Yossi.
So she's referring to the bombing campaign that Israel did in the raids before she was let go. So just for context, this is Noa Argamani takes to Instagram to debunk Israeli media narratives about her bruises, confirming again what she said months ago, that injuries she sustained were not from Hamas, but from bombings from the Israeli Air Force. So this is just a little clip from her talking about it.
מבנה שנורה על ידי מטוס של כוחותינו, מטוס F-16 שירה 3 טילים, 2 טילים התפוצצו ואחד לא התפוצץ. במבנה היינו כמה חיילי קסאם ו3 אסירים. אני, נועה ארגמני, איתי סבירסקי ויוסף שרעבי. לאחר שהטיל פגע במבנה שלנו, כולנו נקברנו בין ההריסות. חיילי הקסאם, חיילי החמאס, הצליחו להציל את החיים שלי ושל איתי, אבל לאחר מכן לא הצלחנו להציל את יוסי. יוסי לא שרד בשלב הזה. אחרי כמה ימים, 2 לילות, העבירו אותי ואת איתי למקום אחר, ובמהלך המעבר איתי נפגע מכוחותינו, נורא, ולא שרד. אני נותרתי פצועה עם חבלות בראש, כל הראש בחתכים, פצועה בשאר הגוף. איתי סבירסקי, יוסף שרבי, שניהם מתו מירי כוחותינו. תעצרו את הטירוף הזה, תחזירו אותנו למשפחות שלנו כל עוד אנחנו בחיים. תחזירו אותנו הביתה.
Now, that was a powerful statement. And everyone said that she was making that statement at the time because she was in Hamas captivity. But like, she's now doubling back and saying it in front of the United Nations. That's a huge deal, especially considering this lie, or at least this narrative that Israel has put out recently about the baby, the baby that's
the Bibas family. Yeah, it is a lie. I'm 100% sure that they're lying to cover up the fact that they killed the family in the airstrikes because they didn't want to extend the ceasefire that was back in December of 2023. Remember when they had that pause? That was part of that. And then to cover that up again, they've made up a lie saying that the babies were strangled by Hamas, which is to break the ceasefire today. So I mean, guys are like,
which they already broke, by the way.
They really know how to do a number. I mean, these people are just insane.
I gotta give, first of all, let me give a shout out to Noah, because like, she can't go back home. She's not going back to Israel. I don't know where she's going after this conference, but she's not going back there.
But it
was dangerous.
Her statement in the Israeli press, they tried to use her statement. They cherry picked bits to say the horror of Hamas. So it's like we're reading it one way, and then they're cutting and slicing it for their people another way.
Yeah, and then she put out. I remember she put out that video in response, because she came out and said, like, no, it was definitely. I think it was her who said I was more terrified to be killed by an Israeli airstrike than I ever was of Hamas. Then they put out another statement saying, they just interpreted it wrong. She's saying that she was scared of Hamas. Then she puts out a video on Instagram saying, like, nope, I'm specifically saying it was IDF that was killing us. Like, I was more terrified of Israel, et cetera, et cetera. And that was validating some of the other statements that I said. There was a soldier that was actually gassed to death. And because the family wouldn't stop telling Netanyahu or calling out Netanyahu about it and demanding answers, they literally carved the man's, like they destroyed this man's grave and made it look like he never existed, which is kind of, I mean, you know, he's a terrorist, so you work for the IDF, but like just saying like the fact that they would do that to somebody who was fighting their loyal genocide or being loyal to their genocide, and then all the mom wanted was answers, and for you to just destroy those committing a genocide on your behalf, like fighting on your behalf, that is insane. And for Noah to do that at the United Nations, unfortunately, the reality is there won't be any consequences. But what this does to me is reconfirm what we already knew. The IDF is in Israel specifically, and specifically Netanyahu and his cabinet, they're literally killing hostages. They're blowing up. I mean, it's Hannibal Directive 101, or at the very least, apathy and neglect, and that they have zero interest in the hostages, because we have to remember that this is in the context of we're doing all this because we want our hostages back. That's what that's what they have been telling us. This genocide is about the hostages. So
that's the narrative.
If you're killing all of them, then what is it really about?
Yeah. Some hostages, but not all hostages.
I mean, in my opinion, if they could have got away with killing all the hostages, they would.
And blame Hamas.
And blame him. Exactly. I feel like it's the only reason that as many hostages have survived as has survived at this moment is because Hamas is doing their best to protect them. And you can make an argument that it's for them, for the hostages specifically, but I do feel like it's legitimate to make an argument that it's also for their leverage, right? They know they need these hostages to maintain international leverage. So it's in their interest to protect the hostages. Yeah. Why would they strangle a baby?
One Israeli hostage, they can get 10 to 100 Palestinians freed. Why would they not look after them? You know,
exactly.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Like, why would I, on the cusp of a ceasefire or in the middle, I'm going to send the corpse of a strangled baby back? What?
So you have to ask yourself the question then: if they're literally making up stories and lies that are this egregious, if they have such, like they claim they have such a clear case of victimization in Israel, and that the world is doing them wrong, and the Palestinians are trying to push them into the ocean, why do they need to make up lies and fabricate stories if their case is so good? And then the obvious answer is it's not a good case, and they need to lie to overcompensate for the fact that they've broken every single human rights UN resolution imaginable, every single norm and international norm you can imagine. That's the problem, you know.
Even for like, the United States has done some shit, right? Like we know that, but like what Israel has done, and the fact that they have done it, like, so for example, you know, whenever, you know, Operation Northwood, like the proposal of killing U.S. citizens to justify, you know, to create enough morale to go to war, and you know, at least like right now it's unofficial, like it never happened. Yeah, I don't really believe that, but at least they pretend like that's disgusting, right? Oh my God, we would never. They're like, yep, we got a whole directive called the Hannibal Directive. The fact that they named it the Hannibal Directive is fucking sick. That is sick, y'all. Like, and they're like, yeah, that would be a fucking cool name for us killing our own. And we're perfectly fine with doing so. And we will lay out the strategic value in doing so. But then it's like when the time comes to like actually own up to it, they're like, no, that never happened. It's like, but y'all actually have said y'all have done it already. What? So this time is different? Yeah, it's totally different this time. Well, how? Because all of this proof shows otherwise. And they don't even really try to argue with it. What they do is when they realize that the argument can't be won, they smear, they attack the families, they attack the hostages themselves, right? Which is why I said, like, Noa, I don't know her history. I don't know anything about her outside of, you know, the moment she was captive to the point she was released and up to now. But like, I kind of feel bad for her because, I mean, Israel definitely was her home, but I doubt it will be anymore. And not just her family's in danger. Her family is in danger now, guys. This is the Mossad and the CIA There's not really any difference between the two. Just like your family can be disappeared in the U.S. if you piss off the intelligence community, it's probably even a higher likelihood of that happening in Israel with the Mossad.
Yeah, I mean, definitely they regard her as treasonous for telling the truth. Definitely.
Exactly. So, and I don't believe that this is. So, Netanyahu has been undergoing hearings of corruption, right? So we got the bus explosion recently.
Yeah, the bus explosions. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so, 3 empty buses in a parking lot. Yeah, nothing suspect there.
Yeah, right. 3 empty ass. Right. What the?
Yeah, and we
think Hamas somehow infiltrated us and decided to make a statement. We're gonna violate our ceasefire to blow up 3 empty buses with no victims.
Yeah. Yep.
No, it's fucking ridiculous.
And use that as an excuse to militarily escalate in the West Bank. So totally not suspicious at all, just normal.
Yep. And then so there was another incident right after that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but at the same time, like these escalations are happening. Netanyahu's undergoing corruption hearings, and no one's talking about the details of those corruption hearings, which is kind of important because why should this motherfucker be making decisions about shit? Because people keep forgetting Israel is one of the few countries that actually has already set a precedent. As long as you're engaged in an active conflict, you can keep postponing elections. So if this man has not only something to gain just for greater Israel and his hate for Palestinian people and the general hate for Arabs in general, like he has something to gain in that regard, but specifically, he avoids prison. He avoids being held accountable for all the corruption he's participated in if he continues the genocide. That's like, and people aren't thinking about that. So the details of these corruption hearings that might not have anything to do with Palestine really is a big deal. But then also there's the fact that these corruption hearings also could be revealing shit about, like, for example, how that Nova Music Festival was moved to the area that was most accessible to Hamas. And no one gave a reason why. No one gave a reason why there was a 3-hour response time or something like that from the time they were called to the time that the IDF arrived. And obviously all of this stuff is going to flow because of the gravity of the situation. Is going to flow through Netanyahu. There's a lot of shit that is probably being revealed and it's going to be revealed. And it's and not just with the hearing once again, but as all this other stuff is going on. And then this Noah situation is, of course, Netanyahu knew that she was going to be giving testimony. So what's the best way to distract from the testimony? Let's talk about 3 buses. Let's talk about this baby situation. Let's talk about, this, a stabbing from a Palestinian happened today. At the same time she's giving this testimony, Pat. Did you know that?
Who'd have thought? Nothing suspicious there.
No, yeah, I'm like, there's no way that this happened the same day. Now, so it was like crazy, like that. They missed everybody. They just happened to stab a police officer. And they've confirmed it's a Palestinian with zero criminal record that stabbed this police officer, supposedly.
A terrorist attack. It's a terrorism. Terrorism struck in the heart of Israel. We're never going to be safe until we eradicate Hamas.
Exactly. So how many Israelis do you believe, and now not just Israelis, but how many Israeli news stations have been running that story hours on end, over and over and over again, instead of running that speech from Noah at the UN?
Yeah. For something that's smaller than the size of New Jersey is the most propagandized strip of land on the planet, Israel. Most propagandized society on the planet. It's unbelievable how propagandized they are. And Israelis will tell you that. Many Israelis have testified to that. So
that is a fact.
Blinkers on.
And it's crazy saying that, like, as Americans, because Americans, they be propagandized like, hey, whoo, it's scary. Because even some of the most well-educated, independent thinking Americans are extremely propagandized when it comes to certain issues. Still, like, they have a knee-jerk conditioned reaction to some issues, like Russia, for example. And even still, Israelis, and I'm talking about as a person who I dated an Israeli. Probably, I would make an argument that the reason we broke up was probably because of Israel and Palestine. Because as sweet as she was, there was just something that was off. Whenever that issue was brought up, it would be an explosion. It couldn't, like, you couldn't joke about it. You couldn't, like, mention it. We couldn't hear about it on the news or on the radio. I couldn't even talk about it on my show. One time we almost got into a fight while I was doing my live show because she heard me bring up the subject while she was in the shower, Pat, and she almost lost her mind. And I was like, because I said, because Israelis like to push this lie that Palestinians have equal rights, or at least Zionists push that lie that Palestinians have equal rights even in Gaza. And I'm like, okay, so like, why wait? Because she worked in the IDF and she was actually part of like one of the special force units for IDF before she left. And she was like, well, we would go in and like take their guns. Like what? I'm like, oh, okay. What do y'all have in Israel what we would call like a Second Amendment? And she was like, yeah, of course. I was like, so Palestinians don't? No. I was like, why not? Well, because they would use them against us. I'm like, but y'all have guns? Yeah. For what? Well, to protect against them. But you can just kick in their door to check if they have guns? Yeah, because it's against the law for them to have guns. So can they kick in the door to check if you have guns? No, that's illegal. I'm like, you don't hear the problem with this? You're not seeing it? No, I don't see the problem at all. Why? Bro, I'm dead at, and there's like a disconnect. And well, what did they say? What did that study that came out? That like Israelis, especially specifically Ashkenazi Jews, have a higher tendency to suffer from schizophrenia?
There is that study out. Yeah, you can Google that. I think major study. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, when you think about, because you have to disassociate to some degree. I don't care how crazy you are to engage in some of the behavior that they engage in. Even if you are psychopathic, there is a level of disassociation that has to take place in your brain. When you disassociate like that, it will naturally lead to schizophrenia. And then the problem with that is once you get to that point where you are schizophrenic, that is not hereditary. That mental illness can be passed down and is passed down often. So like you're breeding some of these people, some of these kids that are in IDF, they're suffering from a mental illness that they inherited from something that happened.
Yeah, they start the conditioning from the age of from preschool. I'll drop you a video after the show, which you probably seen anyway. But it starts at preschool, and then they stop the indoctrination at like grade 9, grade 10, and then they join the IDF when they're coming of age 18 or whatever. So heavily conditioned right through their childhood, like really drilled in all the time, constantly for like 10 years. Or something like that.
They really are convinced that the entire Arab like world is trying to destroy them. And I've always asked, I'm like, so then why aren't y'all destroyed? Because I don't know if you noticed, but y'all kind of small. And if the UAE doesn't want to destroy them, we know that. Saudi Arabia doesn't want to destroy them. I'm like, it's super weird because like ISIS never fucking attacks y'all, but supposedly they're Islamic extremists, which is a whole different conversation.
Egypt's not destroyed them.
And they're the neighbors. Right? Yeah. Right. So it's like, are you sure about that? Well, why haven't they destroyed you yet?
Jordan.
Well, it's because we have guns. I'm like, that doesn't really sound. The math ain't really math in there. And it's because, well, a lot of those Arab countries are paid to protect y'all. Like they're y'all paid security. I mean, if we're keeping it real. But it's like you said, most propagandized people in the world that are also suffering probably from a lot of mental illness, being conditioned. It's, I try not to victim blame because like, I know there are a lot of those people in IDF that they don't know anything else. If they've never been out, they don't know anything else but to be psychopathic killers who hate Arabs. I know black Israelis, Pat, who have suffered from extreme racism from Ashkenazi. I mean, they talked about it to me. And then I asked, okay, yeah, man, I kind of like how Palestinians are treated. Well, no, it's not like that. That's not, don't compare the two. I'm like, what? Hold on. Now explain to me again what you just said. They treat me different because I'm black, man. It doesn't even matter if I'm Jewish. We're all supposed to be Israeli, but it's not really like that. Like you got Israeli rappers, Pat, who rap about the racism that they experience from the Ashkenazi Jews. And then we'll turn around and be like, we gotta eradicate all Palestinians. No such thing as an innocent Palestinian.
Yeah,
what?
That's a crazy subdivision of society, actually.
Oh, wild. So, yeah. Go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you at, man. Let's go ahead and get you on up out of here.
Yeah, 21stcenturywire.com. That's our website. Been running since 2009. Doing a lot of great investigative journalism, some of which we've shared on your show today, Niko. Thank you very much for helping to publicize this great story on the Nord Stream pipeline. And I do a show called The Sunday Wire, live every Sunday, and then the Midweek Wire, which, Niko, you were on a couple weeks ago. And that was a good, fun discussion on Elon Musk and other interesting things. But earlier today, we did a Nord Stream pipeline with Freddie Ponton on the Midweek Wire. So if you're interested in that topic, you have to watch this interview we did today, because we break it all down piece by piece, and it's really helpful.